I always kept a rolled-up 50 rupee note in my shirt pocket for just that purpose. And I didn't mind. Gangsters understand police graft. Cops don't get paid enough to risk their lives, so they tax the community the shortfall. But something in the officer's eyes, a glimmer reflected off a flaw more jagged than corruption, made me uneasy. He slipped the catch off the holster and slid his hand under the stiff cover, onto the butt of the revolver. I stood from the bike. My hand began to move slowly toward the knives in the scabbards under the flap of my shirt. Cops didn't just take bribes in Bombay in those years. They shot gangsters from time to time. A calm, deep voice spoke from very close behind me. I wouldn't be doing that if I were you. I turned to see 3 men standing with me. A 4th man was at the wheel of a car, parked close behind them. You know, I said, my hand on the knife, underneath my shirt, if you were me, you probably would. The man who'd spoken looked away from me to nod his head at the policeman. The officer saluted, climbed back onto his bike, and rode away. Nice trick, I said, turning back. I must remember it if I ever lose my balls. You can lose your motherfucking balls right here and now, Gora, a thin man with a pencil mustache said, showing the blade of a knife he hid in his sleeve. I looked into his eyes. I read a very short story, told by fear and hatred. I didn't want to read it again. The leader raised an exasperated hand. He was a heavy-set man in his late 30s and a quiet talker. If you don't get in the car, he said quietly, I'll shoot you in the knee. Where will you shoot me if I do get in the car? That depends, he replied, regarding me evenly. He was magazine-dressed, hand-tailored silk shirt, loose-fitting gray serge trousers, a Dunhill belt, and Gucci loafers. There was a gold ring on his middle finger that was a copy of the Rolex on his wrist. The other men looked around at the flow of traffic and pedestrians in the gutters of the road. It had been a fairly long silence. I decided to break it. Depends on what? On whether you do as you're told or not. I don't like being told what to do. Nobody does, he replied calmly. That's why there's so much power attached to it. That's pretty good, I said. You should write a book. My heart was racing. I was scared. My stomach dropped like a body thrown in a river. They were the enemy, and I was in their hands. I was probably dead, whichever way you looked at it. Get in the car, he said, allowing himself a little smile. Get to the point. Get in the car. If we play it out here, you go with me. If I get in the car, I go out alone. Arithmetic says we should do it here. Fuck it. The pencil mustache snapped. Let's kill this chewed and get it over with. The heavy-set leader thought about it. It took a while. My hand was still on my knife. You're a logical man, he said. They say you argued philosophy with Qadarbhai. Nobody argued with Qadarbhai. Even so, you can see that your position is irrational. I lose nothing by killing you. You gain everything by staying alive long enough to find out what I want. Except for the part about you being dead. I'd lose that, and so far, that's the best part. Except for that, he said, smiling. But you've seen how much trouble I went to, just to talk to you. If I wanted you dead, I'd have run over your motorcycle with one of my trucks. Leave my motorcycle out of this. Your bike will be safe, Yar, he laughed, nodding at the thin man with the mustache. Danda will ride it for you. Get in the car. He was right. There was no other logical choice. I let my hand fall from my knife. The leader nodded. Danda stepped forward at once, started the bike, and kicked back the stand. He gunned the engine, impatient to leave. You hurt that bike, I shouted at him, but before I could finish the threat he tapped the bike into first gear, and roared off into the stream of traffic, the motor screaming in protest. Danda has no sense of humor, I'm afraid, the leader said as we watched Danda sway and skid through the traffic. Good, because if he hurts my bike, he won't find it funny. The leader laughed, and looked me hard in the eyes. How could you exchange philosophies with a man like Qadarbhai? What do you mean? I mean that Qadarbhai was insane. Sane or not, he was never boring. What doesn't bore us, in the long run? He asked, getting into the car. A sense of humor? I suggested, getting in beside him. They had me, and it was just like prison, because there was nothing I could do about it. He laughed again, and nodded to the driver, whose eyes filled the soft rectangle of the rear-view mirror. Take us to the truth, he said to the driver in Hindi, watching me closely. It's always so refreshing at this time of day. Chapter 10. The driver bullied his way through tight, midday traffic, reaching a warehouse in an industrial area in minutes. The warehouse was freestanding, with a screaming space between it and the nearest buildings. Danda was already there. My bike was parked on the gravel driveway in front. The driver parked the car. A roller door opened to a little over halfway. We got out, stooped under the door, and a chain clattered noisily as it rolled shut again. There were two big worries. The first was that they hadn't blindfolded me. They'd allowed me to see the location of the warehouse, and the faces of the 8 men inside. The second worry was the supply of power tools, torches and heavy hammers arranged on benches along one wall of the warehouse. It took an effort not to stare. Instead, I focused on the long low chair standing alone in the open space near the back wall of the small warehouse. It was a piece of pool furniture, a banana lounge, upholstered in strands of acid green and lemon vinyl. There was a wide stain under the chair. Danda, the skinny mustache with short story eyes, gave me a thorough pat down. He took my 2 knives and passed them on to the leader, who examined them for a moment, before putting them down carefully on the long bench. "Sit down," he said, turning to face me. When I refused to move, he folded his arms patiently and nodded to a tall, powerfully built man who'd been with us in the car. The man came for me. "Hit first, and hit hard," an old con used to tell me. As the big man stepped in quickly, swinging out with an open-handed slap to the right side of my head, I rolled with the blow, and hit him with a short, sharp uppercut. It good luck connected with the point of his chin. The big man stumbled back a step. 2 of the men drew guns. They were old-fashioned revolvers, military issue from a forgotten war. The leader sighed again, and nodded his head. 4 men rushed forward, pushing me onto the green and yellow lounge chair. They tied my hands to the rear legs of the chair with coconut fiber ropes. Slipping another length of rope under the front, they tied down my legs. The leader finally unfolded his arms and approached me. "Do you know who I am?" "A critic?" I suggested, trying not to show the scared that I was feeling. He frowned, looking me up and down. "It's okay," I said. "I know who you are. I know a scorpion when I see one." The leader nodded. "They call me Vishnu," he said. "Vishnu, the man Sanjay spared after the war that cost so many, the man who came back with a gang called the Scorpions." "Why do so many gangsters name themselves after gods? How about I name you dead, you Bahanchud?" Danda spluttered. "Come to think of it," I said thoughtfully, "Danda's not a god. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Danda's just a demigod. Isn't that right? A minor deity?" "Shut up. Stay cool, Danda," Vishnu soothed. "He's just trying to keep the subject off the subject. Don't let him bait you." "A demigod," I mused. "Ever asked yourself how often you get the short stick around here, Danda?" "Shut up. You know what?" Vishnu said, stifling a yawn. "Fuck him. Go ahead, Danda. Fuck his happiness, if you want." Danda rushed at me, swinging punches. As I moved my head quickly, left and right, he only connected with 1 in every 3. Suddenly he stopped. When I held my head still long enough to glance up, I saw the big man, the man I'd hit on the point of the chin, pulling Danda away by the shoulder. The big man punched at my face. He was wearing a brass ring on his middle finger. I felt it crunch along the curves of my cheek and jaw. The big man knew what he was doing. He didn't break anything, he just made it unwell. Then he changed tactic, and smacked me hard on the sides of the head with open-handed slaps. If you beat a man with your fists for long enough, your knuckles will shatter, or the man will die, or both. But if you break him up a little with your fists, to make sure that a good, hard slap is filled with pain, you can go on beating him all day long with an open hand. Torture. It's heavy and flat in that space. There's a density to it, a centripetal pull so strong that there's almost nothing you can take from it, so little you can learn that isn't dark all the way through. But one thing I came to know is that when the beating starts, you shut your mouth. You don't speak. You keep your mouth shut until it ends. And you don't scream if you can help it. "Okay," Vishnu said, when the month of 2 minutes ended. The big man stepped back, accepted a towel from Danda and wiped his sweat-soaked face. Danda reached up to rub the big man's shoulders. "Tell me about Pakistan," Vishnu demanded, holding a cigarette to my lips. I drew in the smoke with dribbles of blood and then puffed it out. I had no idea what he was talking about. Tell me about Pakistan. I stared back at him. We know you went to Goa, Vishnu said slowly. We know you picked up some guns. So, I will ask you again. Tell me about Pakistan. Guns, Goa, Sanjay. It was all coming home with one turn of the karmic wheel. But there's a voice inside my fear, and sooner or later it says, let's get it over with. A lot of people think the capital of Pakistan is Karachi, I said, through swollen lips. But it's not. Vishnu laughed and then stopped laughing. Tell me about Pakistan. Great food, nice music, I said. Vishnu glanced at the tip of his cigarette and then raised his eyes to the big man. And it started again. And I limped through thick mud as each new slap on the side of my head smacked me closer to the fog. When the big man paused, resting his hands on his thighs, Danda seized the moment to flog me with a thin bamboo rod. It left me soaking wet with suffered sweat but woke me up. How are your balls now, Matitude? Danda screamed at me, kneeling so close that I could smell mustard oil and bad fierce sweat in the armpits of his shirt. I started laughing, as you do sometimes when you're being tortured. Vishnu waved his hand. The sudden silence that followed the gesture was so complete that it seemed the whole world had stopped for a moment. Vishnu said something. I couldn't hear him. I realized, slowly, that the silence was a ringing in my ears that only I could hear. He was staring at me, with a quizzical expression, as if he'd just noticed a stray dog, and was wondering whether to play with it or kick it with his Gucci loafers. Another man wiped the blood from my face with a rag smelling of petrol and rotting mold. I spat out blood and bile. How do you feel? Vishnu asked me, absently. I knew the survivor's rules. Don't speak. Don't say a word. But I couldn't stop anger writing words, and couldn't stop saying them once they were in my head. Islamabad. The capital of Pakistan, I said. It's not Karachi. He walked toward me, drawing a small semi-automatic pistol from his jacket pocket. The star sapphire in his eyes showed a tiny image of my skull, already crushed. The entry door of the warehouse opened. A chai wala, a boy of perhaps 12, stepped through from the bright light of the street, bringing 6 glasses of tea in one wire basket, and 6 glasses of water in another. Ah, chai, Vishnu said, a sudden wide smile smoothing out wrinkles of rage. He put the pistol away, and returned to his place near the long bench. The chai boy handed out glasses. His ancient street kid eyes drifted over me, but showed no reaction. Maybe he'd seen it before. A man tied to an acid green and lemon yellow banana lounge, and covered in blood. The gangster who'd smeared some of the blood from my face untied my legs and hands. He took a glass of chai from the boy, and handed it to me. I struggled to hold it in both numbed hands. Other gangsters took their glasses of chai, courteously working their way through the ritual of refusing, so that others could drink, and then accepting the compromise of half shares, spilled into emptied water glasses. It was a polite and convivial scene. We might have been friends, sitting together at Nariman Point and admiring the sunset. The boy hunted around the space for the empty glasses of the last round, filling his wire baskets as he went. He noticed that one of the glasses was missing. Glass. He growled, in a feral percolation of whatever it was that accumulated in his throat. He held up one of the baskets, showing the offending empty space where the last glass should have rested. Glass. Gangsters immediately scrambled to find the missing glass, turning over empty cartons and shoving aside heaps of rags and rubbish. Danda found it. Hain, he said, revealing the glass with a flourish. It's here. It's here. He handed it to the boy, who snatched it suspiciously and left the warehouse. Danda looked at Vishnu quickly, his eyes bright with groveling. Did you see that, boss? Did you see it was me who found the glass? When I was sure that I could move without trembling, I put my glass of chai on the ground beside me. It wasn't all pride and anger. My lips were split and swollen. I knew I'd be drinking blood as well as chai. Can you stand? Vishnu asked, setting his empty glass aside. I stood. I started to fall. The big man who'd slapped me around rushed to catch me, his strong arms encircling my shoulders with solicitous care. With help, I stood again. You can go, Vishnu said. He shifted his eyes toward Danda. Give him the keys to his bike, Yar. Danda fished the keys from his pocket on impulse, but approached Vishnu rather than me. Please, he begged. He knows something. I know it. Just give me a little more time. It's okay, Vishnu replied, smiling indulgently. I already know what I need to know. He took the keys from Danda and threw them to me. I caught them against my chest with both numbed hands. I met his gaze. Besides, Vishnu said, looking at me, you don't even know about Pakistan, do you? You don't have any damn idea what we're talking about, isn't it? I didn't answer. That's it, my friend. Yeah. Go. I held his eyes for a moment, and then held out my hand, palm upwards. My knives, I said. Vishnu smiled, folding his arms again. Let's call that a fine, shall we? Your knives will go to Hanuman as a fine for that shot you took at him. Take my advice. Go now, and keep this place a secret. Don't tell Sanjay or anyone else about it. A secret? I let you know about this place, because you can use it to contact us. If you leave a message here, it will get back to me, very quickly. Why would I want to do that? Unless I have misjudged you, and I'm really quite good at judging characters, you may decide, one day, that you have more in common with us than you think now. And you may want to talk to us. If you're smart, you won't tell anyone about this address. You'll save it, for a rainy day. But for now, for today, as the Americans say, fuck off. I walked with Danda to the side door, stepping through as he opened it for me. He cleared his throat noisily, and spat on the leg of my trousers before slamming the door shut. On the ground, beside my bike, I found a scrap of paper, and used it to wipe the mess of spit from my jeans. I put the key into the ignition of the bike. I was about to kick-start the engine, when I caught sight of my battered face in the rear-view mirror. My nose wasn't broken, for once, but both eyes were pulpy and swollen. I kicked the bike alive, but left her in neutral gear, resting on the side stand with the engine turning over slowly. I twitched a control lever on a panel beneath one long edge of the seat. The panel dropped down, showing my Italian stiletto knife. I hammered on the door of the warehouse with the butt of the knife. I heard an angry voice inside as someone approached the door, cursing whoever was disturbing the peace. It was Danda. I was glad. The door opened. Danda was swearing angrily. I grabbed at the front of his shirt, slammed him against the doorjamb, and jabbed the stiletto against his stomach. He tried to break free, but I pushed the point deeper into his stomach until the knife spit red onto his pink shirt. Okay, he shouted. Fuck, Ari, Pagal hai tum? Have you gone mad? Several men began to approach me. I pressed the knife a little harder. No, Danda shouted. Get the hell back, you guys. He's cutting me here. The men stopped. Without taking my eyes off Danda's face, I spoke to Vishnu. My knives, I mumbled, my lips as numb as the heel of a bricklayer's hand. Bring them here. Give them to me. Vishnu hesitated. I saw the terror in Danda's sweat. He was more afraid of his employer's disregard than he was of my anger. At last, Vishnu slouched toward us with the two knives. When he handed them to me, I shoved them into the belt at the back of my trousers, holding the stiletto at Danda's belly. Vishnu began to tug on Danda's shirt, wanting to pull him away from me and back into the warehouse. I resisted, pressing the knife just a little harder against Danda's soft stomach. A half centimeter of the blade was inside his body. 1 centimeter more would penetrate an organ. Wait, Danda shrieked in panic. I'm bleeding. He's gonna kill me. What do you want? Vishnu asked. Tell me about Pakistan, I said. Vishnu laughed. It was a good laugh, clear and clean. It was the kind of laugh that would have endeared him to me on another day, when he hadn't introduced me to his pool furniture. I like you, and I feel like killing you, at the same time, he said, his dark-rimmed eyes gleaming. That's a peculiar talent you've got. Tell me about Pakistan, I said. You really don't know anything, do you? Vishnu sighed as his smile died. We saw that you went to a council meeting, and with your Goa trip and all, we assumed, that you must be knowing what's going on. Your guys are really keeping you in the dark, my friend. That's dangerous, for you. Not to mention a little insulting, nah? Your man here will be in the dark any second now, if you don't answer my question. I want to know what this was all about. Tell me about Pakistan. If I tell you what I know, you'll tell Sanjay, he replied, stifling a yawn. There was a fine but deep scar over his right eye. He rubbed a fingertip along the cicatrice as he spoke. That would give Sanjay an advantage. I can't allow that. Let Danda go. Get on your motorcycle and go. If you kill Danda, I'll have to kill you. He's my cousin. And I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill anyone. Not today. It's my wife's birthday, you know, and there's a party. He shifted his gaze to stare at the sodden clouds overhead. Go fast, he said, looking back at me. We thought you knew something, but it's obvious that you don't. When you know more, and you want to talk, you know where to contact me. No hard feelings. These things happen. As the Americans say, I am owing one on you. Not as much as I'm owing one on you, I said, stepping away from Danda and backing toward the bike. He laughed again. Let's call this even and start fresh and clean. Leave me a message here when you want to get in touch. One way or another, I'll come to know. Chapter 11. Every man takes a beating in his own way. My way, in those years, was to learn everything I could about the men who beat me, and then wait for fate to meet me halfway. When I escaped from prison, I punched a hole in the ceiling of an office, climbed through to the roof, and escaped over the front wall in broad daylight with my friend. The ceiling we escaped through was in the office of the chief security officer, the man responsible for having my friend, and me, and dozens of other men beaten, beyond reason or law. I'd watched him for months. I'd studied his habits and moods. And I knew the 7-minute window, every day, when he'd be out of his office, leaving the door unlocked. We stood on his desk to punch the hole to freedom. He lost his job when we escaped, and Fade took a holiday. I don't like being slapped around. I wanted to know about the men who'd done it. I wanted to know everything about them. At the second gap in the road divider, I turned the bike around and rode back the way I'd come. I parked in the shade of some trees beside a little row of shops on the opposite side of the street from the warehouse. I turned off the engine. Passers-by and shopkeepers stared at my bloody face, but hurried away or averted their eyes when I stared back at them. After a time, a man selling cleaning cloths for cars and motorcycles approached me. I bought one of the longest cloths, but before giving the cloth seller his money, I asked him to run some errands for me. In 5 minutes he returned with a packet of codeine tablets, some adhesive bandages, a bottle of vodka, and 2 clean towels. I paid the cloth seller, found an open drain, and washed my face with a cloth soaked in vodka, cleaning off the running wounds with dabs from the clean towel. A barber serving clients beneath a conversation tree offered me his mirror. I fixed it to a ribbon on the tree, and dressed the 2 worst cuts on my face. Finally I took the cloth seller's black rag, and wound it around my forehead in an Afghan turban. The clients and friends squatting around the barber's chair in the shade nodded and wagged varying degrees of disapproval or consolation. I took an empty glass, poured myself a shot of vodka and drank it. Holding bottle and glass in one hand, I ripped open a packet of codeine tablets with my teeth, shook 4 into the glass, and half filled it with vodka. The level of approval rose among the shaving club. When I drank the glass down and offered the men the rest of the bottle, a little cheer went up. I went back to sit on my bike, out of view, and stared through desert dry leaves of sun-withered trees at the warehouse, where my blood was still wet on the floor. They came out in a laughing, joking group, shoving and teasing the thin man with the mustache, Danda. They squeezed into 2 ambassador cars and drove out into the flow of traffic heading toward Tardeo. Giving them half a minute, I followed the cars, careful to stay out of mirror range. They passed through Tardeo, kept on through Opera House Junction and into the main road. It was a long, leafy boulevard, running parallel to one of the city's main train lines. The cars stopped at the gate of a mansion complex, not far from the main station at Churchgate. The high, metal gates opened quickly, the cars drove inside, and the gates swung shut again. I rode past, glancing up at the tall windows of the triple-fronted mansion. Wooden storm shutters covered all the windows. Dusty, blood-red geraniums spilled over the rail of the first-floor balcony. They dripped all the way to the rusted iron spears on top of a security wall, concealing the ground floor. I slammed the bike into the heavy traffic, moving toward Churchgate Station and beyond, past the thirsting, ochre-playing fields of Azad Maidan. I took my rage and fear out on the road, cutting between cars, fighting back against the city by challenging and beating every other bike that I passed. I pulled up near KC College, close to Sanjay's mansion. The school was one of Bombay's finest. Well-dressed, fashion-conscious students crowded the street, their young minds glittering in the compass of their smiles. They were the hope of the city. The hope of the world, in fact, although not many knew it at the time. I swear, a voice from behind me said. Fastest white man in Bombay. I've been trying to catch you for the last 5. It was Farid the fixer, the young gangster who blamed himself for not being with Qadarbhai at the end, in the killing snows of Afghanistan. He broke off suddenly as I removed the soft black cloth I'd used as a turban. Oh, shit, man. What happened to you? Do you know if Sanjay's at home? He is. Sure. Come on, let's get inside. When I made my report to Sanjay, sitting at the glass and gilt table in his dining room, his expression was calm and almost dismissive. He asked me to repeat the names I'd heard them use, and the faces I'd seen. I've been expecting this, he said. Expecting it? I said. Why didn't you tell Lynn? Farid demanded. Or me, so I could ride with him. Sanjay ignored us and began to pace the long room. His handsome face had begun to age beyond his years. The ridge and valley depressions below his eyes had deepened to dark, hard-edged troughs. Worry lines flared out from the corners of his bloodshot eyes, fading in the new gray that began at his temples and streaked the gloss black hair. He drank too much, and he did too much of everything else he enjoyed. He was a young man in charge of an empire, burning youth into age. What do you think they were really after? He asked me, after a long pause. Why don't you tell me? What's the deal with Pakistan? What else didn't you tell me, when you sent me to Goa? I tell you what you need to know. Sanjay snapped. This was something that I needed to know before today, I said evenly. You weren't tied to that lounge chair, Sanjay. I was. Damn right, Farid said. Sanjay let his eyes drift to his hands, resting on the glass table. His biggest fear, reasonably enough, was a bloody gang war that took most of the lives and power from one gang, and all the lives and power from another. Anything short of that, in his eyes, was a victory. It was the only thing we agreed on, in all the missions and battles of the last 2 years. There are things in play here that you don't know, and can't understand, he said. I'm running this company. I tell you both what you need to know, and nothing more. So, fuck you, Lynn. And fuck you, Farid. Fuck me, Sanjay? Farid spat at him. That's all the respect I get? How about I fuck your happiness right here and now? He took a step toward Sanjay, but I stopped him, my hands on his chest. Take it easy, Farid brother, I said. This is just what they wanted, when they slapped me around today, is falling out with each other. Fuck me? Farid snarled. Say it again, boss. Say it again. Sanjay stared at the young fighter for a while, and then his cold eyes drifted to mine. Tell me the truth, Lynn. What did you tell them? It was my turn to anger. Rage drew in a breath. My lips widened, splitting cuts. What are you trying to say, boss? He frowned, irritated. Come on, Lynn, he said. This is the real world. People talk. What did you tell them? I was angry enough to beat him senseless. Angrier at him, in fact, than the men who'd nearly beaten me senseless. Of course he didn't say anything. Farid said. It's not the first time he's been kicked by the other side. Me, too. And you, too, Sanjay. Stop being so disrespectful. What's the matter with you, boss? Sanjay flashed a look, exasperated to the point of being vicious, revealing how close he was to the edge. Farid held his gaze for a moment, but then looked away. Sanjay turned back to me. You can go, Lynn, he said. And whatever you did or didn't say before, keep your mouth shut about this from now on. About what, Sanjay? About the act they put on today? 1 minute they're gonna kill me, the next minute they're letting me go. They wanted me to come back here, in this condition, and say the word Pakistan to you. It's a message. I'm the message. This scorpion guy, Vishnu, is big on messages. So am I. Sanjay smiled. And I write messages in blood, like they do. In a time and manner of my own choosing. Whatever you do, don't do it for me. Are you telling me what to do? Who the fuck do you think you are? There was a dragon inside me, all fire, but I didn't want some other soldier to sit in a chair, as I'd done, until the ceiling turned red. Don't square up for me, boss. When the time comes, I'll handle that myself. You'll do what you're told, and when you're told. I'll square this up myself, Sanjay, I repeated. In a time and manner of my own choosing. Just so we're clear that I told you in advance. Get out, Sanjay said, his eyes narrowing. Both of you. Don't come near me, Lin, unless I send for you. Get out. On the street Farid stopped me, angrier than I was. Lin, he said quietly, his eyes wider than rage. I don't give a shit what Sanjay says. He's weak. He's nothing. I have no respect for him anymore. We'll find Abdullah. We'll go, just the three of us, without saying a thing. We'll kill this Vishnu, the one in charge, and those other Gandus, Danda and Hanuman. I smiled, bathing my wounded face in the warmth of his brave heart. It's okay. Leave it alone. Right place and right time, brother. One way or another, I'll see those guys again, and if I need you, I'll make sure to call you. Night and day, man, he replied, shaking hands. He rode away. And I looked back at Sanjay's mansion, another mansion in a city of slums. The street windows were sealed, red metal shutters rusted into their slides. A withered hedge clung to a wrought iron fence. It was a lot like the house the Scorpions returned to, after they'd worked me over. It was too much like that house. You can respect a man's rights or opinions without knowing the man at all. But you can only respect the man himself when you find something in him that's worthy of the word. Farid didn't look up to Sanjay, and it was clear that others on the council felt the same way. I'd never looked up to Sanjay, but still I worked for him, under the protection of the company that bore his name. It was a matter of conscience for me, and perhaps for some of the others, but the erosion of authority was everything for Sanjay. Every gang is a totem of respect. Every leader is a portrait of faith. Where was the rain? I felt dirty, beat up and dirty. I was falling. Everything was falling. Everything but the rain. My heart was a hostage, somewhere, and I was writing the ransom note. The world of weeks ago, when I'd left for Goa, was navigating by different stars. A weakened leader, propped up by Afghan guards, a 14-year-old boy, Tariq, dreaming of the power to command killers and thieves, the morning torture with the word Pakistan, Lisa, Carla, Ranjit. Nothing was the same, and nowhere looked the same. I was lost, and dirty. And beat up. I had to find my way. I had to stop falling. I turned my back on Sanjay's mansion and rode away, pushing another raft of hope into that little ocean of minutes, my life. Chapter 12. There was a note from Lisa on the kitchen table when I returned home. It said she'd missed me, and was going shopping with our friend, Vikram. She suggested that we should meet later, back at the apartment. Relaxing for the first time since Vishnu's men picked me up, I locked the door and leaned against the wall. It didn't last long. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor. It was still early. I'd forged 3 passports, been kidnapped, beaten, and debriefed, and it was still only 2 in the afternoon. I've known friends who've gone through beatings and don't miss a step. I never learned to take the hits so easily. I could keep it inside and hold the line for as long as it took me to find a safe place, but as soon as I closed a sheltered door, the avalanche always began. And it took a while, that day, to get my heart under control and stop my hands from shaking. I had a shower, scrubbing at the cuts on my face and neck with a bristle brush and strong disinfectant. The wounds were clean, no small matter in a tropical city, but they began to bleed again. I drowned them in aftershave. As the pain burned white dots in the space before my eyes, I filed it away for future reference. When the reckoning with Danda the mustache guy came, I had to remember to bring aftershave. Bruises and welts were appearing in every place that Danda's bamboo cane had struck. It was a forensic match for the marks I'd worn before, in prison, the marks I saw on other prisoners in the shower. I looked away from the mirror, forcing myself to forget, another prison trick. In 20 minutes I was on my bike again, dressed in clean jeans and boots, a red t-shirt and my cut-off vest. I rode along beside the fishermen's coves to the Kalaba Back Bay, to keep the appointment in the slum. The land everywhere around me had been reclaimed from the sea, stone by stone. Tall, modern apartment buildings crowded together on the new stone ocean and showered precious shade on wide, leafy streets. It was an expensive, desirable area, with the President Hotel as a figurehead on the prow of the suburb. The little shops that lined the 3 main boulevards were freshly painted. Flower boxes decorated many of the windows. The servants who moved back and forth from the residential towers to the shops were dressed in their best saris and bleached white shirts. As the main road swung left and then right beside the World Trade Center, the scene changed. The trees became more sparsely planted, and then stopped altogether. The shade began to fade as the last shadow cast by a tower surrendered to the sun. And the heat from that sun, hovering, obscured by heavy clouds, beat down on the dust-gray ocean of the slum, where the ridges of low rooftops rolled away to the tattered horizon in ragged waves of worry and struggle. I parked the bike, took the medicines and bandages from the saddlebags, and tossed a coin to one of the kids who offered to watch the bike for me. There wasn't really a need. No one stole anything in that area. As I entered the slum, making my way along a wide, sandy, uneven path, the smell of the open latrine that lined the road flattened the breath in my lungs. A fist of nausea twisted my stomach. The beating in the warehouse came back hard and fast. The sun. The beating. The sun was too hot. I staggered to the side of the path. The surge of nausea erupted and I stooped, my hands on my knees, and threw up anything I still had inside onto the weeds beside the road. The children of the slum chose that moment to rush out of the lanes to greet me. Crowding around me as I shuddered and shivered, they tugged at the sleeves of my shirt and shouted my name. Linbaba, Linbaba, Linbaba. Pulling myself together, I allowed the children to drag me with them into the slum. We worked our way through the narrow, stumble-foot lanes between huts made from plastic sheets, woven mats and bamboo poles. The huts, covered in dust accumulated through 8 months of the dry season, looked like desert dunes. Gleaming towers of pots and pans, garlanded images of gods, and smooth, highly polished earthen floors glimpsed their way through low doorways, attesting to the neat, ordered lives that persisted within. The children led me directly to Johnny Cigar's house, not far from the seashore boundary. Johnny, who was the head man in the slum, was born on the streets of the city. His father, a Navy man on temporary assignment in Bombay, had abandoned Johnny's mother when he learned that she was pregnant. He left the city on a warship, bound for the port of Aden. She never heard from him again. Cast out by her family, Johnny's mother had moved into a pavement dweller settlement made from sheets of plastic strung across a section of footpath near Crawford Market. Johnny was born in the day-long shout, shove and shuffle heard from one of Asia's largest covered markets. His ears rang from early morning until last light with shrill or braying cadenzas of street sellers and stallholders. He'd lived the whole of his life in pavement communities and crowded slums, and only ever seemed truly at home in the surge and swirl of the crowd. The few times I'd seen him alone, walking the strip of sea coast beside the slum, or sitting in a lull of afternoon outside a chai shop, he'd seemed diminished by the solitude, withdrawn into a smaller sense of himself. But in any crowd, he was a jewel of his people. "Oh, my God," he cried when he saw my face. "What the hell happened to you, man? It's a long story. How you doin', Johnny?" "Oh, shit, man. You got a solid pasting." I frowned at him. Johnny knew that frown. We'd lived together as neighbors in the slum for 18 months, and had continued as good friends for years. Okay, thick hi, Baba. Come, sit down, have some chai. Sunil, bring chai, Fatafat, super quickly. I sat on an empty grain drum, watching Johnny give instructions to a team of young men, who were making final preparations for the coming rain. When the previous head man of the slum retired to his village, he nominated Johnny Cigar as his successor. A few voices grumbled that Johnny wasn't the ideal choice, but the love and admiration everyone felt for the retiring head man silenced their objections. It was an honorary position, with no authority beyond that contained within the character of the man who held it. After almost 2 years in the job, Johnny had proven himself to be wise in the settlement of disputes, and strong enough to inspire that ancient instinct, the urge to follow a positive direction. For his part, Johnny enjoyed the leadership role, and when all else failed to resolve a dispute, he went with his heart, declared a holiday in the slum, and threw a party. His system worked and was popular. There were people who'd moved into that slum because there was a pretty good party every other week to settle a dispute peacefully. People brought disputes from other slums to have them resolved by Johnny. And little by little, the boy born on the pavement was Solomon to his people. "Arun, get down to the mangrove line with Deepak," he shouted. "That flood wall collapsed yesterday. Get it up again, fast. Raju, take the boys to Bapu's house. The old ladies in his lane have no plastic on the roof. Those fucking cats pulled it off. Bapu has the sheets. Help him get them up. The rest of you, keep clearing those drains. Jaldi, fast. The tea arrived, and Johnny sat down to drink with me. Cats, he sighed. Can you explain to me why there are cat people in this world? In a word, mice. Cats are handy little devils. I guess so. You just missed Lisa and Vikram. Has she seen your face like this? No. Hell, man, she's gonna have a fit, yar. You look like somebody ran over you. Thanks, Johnny. Don't mention, he replied. Hey, that Vikram, he doesn't look too good either. He's not sleeping well, I think. I knew why Vikram didn't look too good. I didn't want to talk about it. When do you think? I asked, looking at the black, heaving clouds. The smell of rain that should but wouldn't fall was everywhere in my eyes, in my sweat, in my hair. First rain, the perfect child of monsoon. I thought it would be today, he replied, sipping at his tea. I was sure. I sipped my tea. It was very sweet, laced with ginger to defeat the heat that pressed down on every heart in the last days of the summer. The ginger soothed the cuts on the inside of my mouth, and I sighed with pleasure. Good chai, Johnny, I said. Good chai, he replied. Indian penicillin, I said. There is no penicillin in this chai, Baba, Johnny said. No, I mean, we never put penicillin in our tea, he declared. He seemed offended. No, I reassured him, knowing that I was heading down a dead-end street. It's a reference to an old joke, a joke about chicken soup being called Jewish penicillin. Johnny sniffed at his tea charily. You smell chickens in the tea? No, it's a joke. I grew up in the Jewish part of my town, Little Israel. And, it's a joke everybody tells, because Jewish people are supposed to offer you chicken soup, no matter what's wrong with you. You've got an upset stomach, have a little chicken soup. You've got a headache, have a little chicken soup. You've just been shot, have a little chicken soup. And in India, tea is like chicken soup for Jewish people, see? No matter what's wrong, a strong glass of chai will fix you up. Get it? His puzzled frown cleared in a half smile. There's a Jewish person not far from here, he said. He stays in the Parsi colony at Kuf Parade, even though he's not a Parsi. His name is Isaac, I believe. Shall I bring him here? Yes, I replied excitedly. Get the Jewish person and bring him here. Johnny rose from his stool. You'll wait for me here? He asked, preparing to leave. No, I said, exasperated. I was joking, Johnny. It was a joke. Of course I don't want you to bring the Jewish person here. It's really no trouble, he said. He stared at me, bewildered, trapped a half step away, uncertain whether he should fetch Isaac the Jewish person or not. So, I said at last, looking at the sky for an escape from the conversational cul-de-sac, when do you think? He relaxed and scanned the clouds churning in from the sea. I thought it would be today, he replied. I was sure. Well, I sighed, if not today, tomorrow. Okay, can we do this now, Johnny? Juror, he replied, moving toward the low doorway of his hut. I joined him inside, closing the flimsy plywood door behind me. The hut, made of thin, tatami-style matting strung to bare bamboo poles, was paved on the bare earth with extravagantly detailed and colored tiles. They formed a mosaic image of a peacock, with its tail fanned out against a background of trees and flowers. The cupboards were filled with food. The large, metal, rat-proof wardrobe was an expensive and much-prized item of furniture in the slum. A battery-powered music system occupied a corner of a metal dresser. Pride of place went to a three-dimensional illustration of the flogged and crucified Christ. New floral print mattresses were rolled up in a corner. The traces of relative luxury attested to Johnny's status and commercial success. I'd given him the money as a wedding present, to buy a small, legal apartment in the neighboring Navy Nagar district. The gift was intended to allow him to escape the uncertainty and hardship of life in the illegal slum. Aided by the enterprising spirit of his wife Sita, the daughter of a prosperous chai shop owner, Johnny used the apartment as collateral for a loan, and then rented it out at a premium. He used the loan to buy 3 slum huts, rented the 3 illegal huts at market rates, and was living in exactly the same slum lane where I'd first met him. Moving a few things aside, Johnny made a place for me to sit. I stopped him. Thanks, brother. Thanks. I don't have time. I have to find Lisa. I've been one step behind her all day long. Lynn, brother, you'll always be one step behind that girl. I think you're right. Here, take this. I gave him the bag of medicines that Lisa had given me, and pulled a wad of money bound with tight elastic bands from my pocket. It was enough to pay 2 months' wages for the 2 young men who worked as first aid attendants in the free clinic. There was also a surplus to cover the purchase of new bandages and medicines. Is there anything special? Well, he said, reluctantly. Tell me. Anjali, Bhagat's daughter, she went for the exams. How'd she do? She came top. And not just top of her class, mind you, but top of the whole Maharashtra state. Smart kid. I remembered the little girl she was, years ago, when she'd helped me from time to time in the free clinic. The 12-year-old kept the names of all the patients in the slum in her head, hundreds of names, and became a friend to every one of them. In visits to the clinic in the years since, I'd watched her learn and grow. But smart is not enough in this, our India, Johnny sighed. The registrar of the university, he is demanding a baksheesh of 20,000 rupees. He said it flatly, without rancor. It was a fact of life, like the diminishing numbers of fish in fishermen's nets, and the daily increase of cars, trucks and motorcycles on the roads of the once genteel island city. How much have you got? 15,000, he replied. We collected the money from everyone here, from all castes and religions. I put in 5,000 myself. It was a significant commitment. I knew Johnny wouldn't see that money repaid in anything less than 3 years. I pulled a roll of American dollars from my pocket. In those days of the rabid demand for black market money, I always carried at least 5 currencies with me at any one time. Deutschmarks, pounds sterling, Swiss francs, dollars and reals. I had about $350 in notes. At black market rates it was enough to cover the shortfall in Anjali's education bribe. Lynn, don't you think? Johnny said, tapping the money against his palm. No, I know, Lynn Baba, but it's not a good thing that you give money without telling the people. They should know this thing. I understand that if we give without praise, anonymously, it is a 10-fold gift in the eyes of God. But God, if He'll forgive me for speaking my humble mind, can be very slow in passing out praise. He was almost exactly my own height and weight, and he carried himself with the slightly pugnacious shoulder and elbow swing of a man who made fools suffer well, and fairly often. His long face had aged a little faster than his 35 years, and the stubble that covered his chin was peppered with gray-white. The sand-colored eyes were alert, wary, and thoughtful. He was a reader, who consumed at least one new self-help book every week, and then unhelpfully nagged his friends and neighbors into reading them. I admired him. He was the kind of man, the kind of friend, who made you feel like a better human being, just for knowing him. Strangely, stupidly, I couldn't bring myself to tell him that. I wanted to do it. I started to do it a few times, but wouldn't let myself speak the words. My exile heart at that time was all doubt and reluctance and skepticism. I gave my heart to Kotterbai, and he used me as a pawn. I gave my heart to Carla, the only woman I've ever been in love with, and she used me to serve the same man, the man we both called father, Kotterbai. Since then I'd been on the streets for 2 years, and I'd seen the town come to the circus, the rich beg paupers, and the crime fit the punishment. I was older than I should have been, and too far from people who loved me. I let a few, not many, come close, but I never reached out to them as they did to me. I wouldn't commit, as they did, because I knew that sooner or later I'd have to let go. Let it go, Johnny, I said softly. He sighed again, pocketed the money, and led the way outside the hut. Why are Jewish people putting penicillin in their chickens? He asked me as we gazed at the lowering sky. It was a joke, Johnny. No, but those Jewish people are pretty smart, yar. If they're putting penicillin in their chickens, they must have a damn good. Johnny, I interrupted, with a raised hand, I love you. I love you, too, man, he grinned. He wrapped his arms around me in a tight hug that woke every one of the wounds and bruises on my arms and shoulders. I could still feel the strength of him, still smell the coconut oil in his hair as I walked away through the slum. The smothering clouds threw early evening shadows on the weary faces of fishermen and washerwomen, returning home from the busy shoreline. but the whites of their tired eyes glowed with auburn and rose gold as they smiled at me. And they all smiled, every one of them, as they passed, crowns gleaming on their sweated brows. Chapter 13. When I stepped into the laughing broil of Leopold's, I scanned the tables for Lisa and Vikram. I couldn't see them, but my eyes met those of my friend Didier. He was sitting with Kavita Singh and Naveen Adair. A jealous husband, Didier cried, admiring my battered face. Lynn, I'm so proud of you. Sorry to disappoint you, I shrugged, reaching out to shake hands with him and Naveen. Slipped in the shower. Looks like the shower fought back, Naveen said. What are you, a plumbing detective now? Whatever the cause, I am delighted to see sin on your face, Lynn. Didier declared, waving to the waiter. This calls for a celebration. I hereby call this meeting of sinners anonymous to order. Kavita announced. Hi, my name's Naveen, the young detective said, buying in, and I'm a sinner. Hi, Naveen, we all replied. Where to begin? Naveen laughed. Any sin will do, Didier prompted. Naveen decided to think about it for a while. It suits you, this new look, Kavita Singh said to me as we sat down. I'll bet you say that to all the bruises. Only the ones I put there myself. Kavita, a beautiful, intelligent journalist, had a preference for other girls, and was one of the few women in the city who was unafraid to declare it. Kavita, Naveen will not reveal his sins. Didier pouted. At least tell me some of yours. She laughed and began reciting a list of her sins. Those rocks in your shower, Naveen remarked quietly, leaning close to me, did a professional job. I glanced at him quickly. I was ready to like him. I already did like him. But he was still a stranger, and I wasn't sure that I could trust him. How did he know that I'd received a professional beating? Reading my expression, he smiled. All the hits, on both sides of your face, are bunched up in a tight pattern, left and right, he said quietly. Your eyes are blacked, but they're still open, and you can see okay. That's not easy to do. Your wrists are marked, too. It's not hard to figure that somebody who knew what he was doing smacked you around pretty good. I'm guessing there's a point in there, somewhere. The point is, I'm hurt. You're hurt? You didn't invite me. I wasn't the one sending out cards. Likely to be any more parties? He smiled. I don't know. You feeling lonely? Count me in, if you need a date, next time. I'm good, I said. But thanks for the offer. Please. Didier insisted as a glowering waiter slammed the drinks down on the table. Stop whispering, you two. If it's not an illicit lover or jealous husband to boast about, you'll have to offer another sin to discuss. I'll drink to that, Kavita encouraged. Do you know why sin is banned? Didier asked her, his blue eyes glittering. Because it's fun? Kavita offered. Because it makes fun of people who ban sin, Didier said, raising his glass. I'll make the toast, Kavita announced, raising her glass to Didier's. To tying people up and giving them a good smack. Excellent, Didier cried. I'm in, Naveen said, raising his glass. No, I said. It wasn't the day to toast people being tied up, not for me. Okay, Lynn, Kavita snapped. Why don't you make the toast? To freedom, in all its forms, I said. I'm in again, Naveen said. Didier is always for freedom, Didier agreed, raising his glass. All right, Kavita said, banging her glass against ours. To freedom, in all her forms. We just put our glasses back on the table when Concannon and Stuart Vincent joined us. Hey, man, Vincent said, offering a handshake like a good-natured smile. What the hell happened to you? Someone kicked his fucking ass, Concannon laughed, his Northern Irish drawl prowling. And it looks like they threw in his head, Nell. What ya been up to, boyo? He has shower issues, Kavita said. Shower issues, does he, indeed? Concannon grinned, leaning close to Kavita. And what issues do you have? You first, Kavita replied. He grinned again, as if he'd won. Me? I take issue with everything that isn't already mine. And since I've let that cat out of the bag, I repeat, what issues do you have? I have loveliness issues. But I'm in treatment. Aversion therapy is said to be very effective, Naveen said, staring at Concannon. Concannon looked from one to the other, laughed hard, seized 2 chairs from a neighboring table without asking, dragged them to our table and pushed Vincent down into one of them. He turned his own chair around backwards, and rested his solid forearms on the back of it. "What are we drinking?" he asked. I realized that Didier hadn't called for drinks, his habit whenever anyone joined him in Leopold's. I turned my head and saw him staring at Concannon. The last time I'd seen Didier look at someone that hard, he'd had a gun in his hand. 30 seconds later he'd used it. I raised my hand to call the waiter. When the drinks were ordered I moved the subject across Didier's eye line. "You look good, Vincent." "I'm damn happy," the young American replied. "We just made a killing." Fell right into my lap. Well, into our laps, Concannon's and mine. So, hey, the drinks are on us. The drinks arrived. Vincent paid and we raised our glasses. "To sweet deals," Vincent said, "and to the suckers who